Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome, listeners, and thanks for joining us today. I am your host, Bryan O'Rourke, and it is the beginning of 2021. I know many of us continue to face challenges around the world with new lockdowns and other restrictions, hoping that the vaccines continue to work and we get those distributed out as quickly as we can. So please hang in there for those of you that are being unduly impacted. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Before I talk about our coming guests today, who I hope you're going to enjoy, I wanted to remind you to please submit your nominations on the fittechcouncil.org website. Our Technology Innovation Award nominations for 2020 end on January 31. So you have probably about a week or more to apply. And we're looking for people in the supplier side, operator side, and professional side who exhibited great innovation using technology in the past year. So the links in the show notes, I'd appreciate it so much if you participated. So about our guest today, Shay Amir, I started speaking with him, I guess it was a few months back, and his company, Spivi, joined Fitzy recently, and Shay is the founder and CEO of Spivi. He has been a contributor to the ILC, which is now the National Health and Fitness Alliance, and he, of course, is the founder of Spivi. And what Spivi does is interactive fitness tracking, and it does streaming. It enables clubs to provide experiences at home and in clubs simultaneously. They have customers in about 45 countries. Shay's a very interesting guy. We have a great conversation about the idea of Omni-Presence and some of the things that they're doing with their technology. So I hope you'll find it fascinating. So without further ado, let's get Shay on the line. Well, hello, listeners. Thanks again for joining us. As I was saying in the intro, our guest today, Shay Amir, really has a very interesting story with his company, Spivi, and some of the things that they've been doing for a while now, some of their most recent innovations. Shay, thanks for making time for the listeners today.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Well, I've really spent some time in the last several weeks learning more about what you all do. And in our prior conversation, we covered a lot of ground. And there's some general and generic terms people use right now, they've been using for a long time in the industry space. Things like engagement or things like technologies. Tell us what your thoughts are on that right now, given everything that's been going on the last year and given your over 10-year background in the industry.
Okay. So, look, it's very interesting. When people go to gym, they want to have fun, they want to burn calories, and they want to feel better with themselves, right? This is the whole story in a nutshell. And the local gym is built on personalization, a relationship and community, right? So when we look at members' engagement, we need to look at different levels of let's call it engagement, but let's try to break it into parts. And this is how I see it, right? So I think the number one thing to keep your member engaged is the feedback. I mean, when you go, even if you go outside, when you go on a ride or when you go for a run, right? And suddenly you notice that your Strava didn't work, right? for yourself, it's like I did nothing, right? Even if you had 40 miles on your bike right now.
Right.
So yeah, it is very important to have this data, to have this feedback. It is essential. Um, and it's not just your metrics. We're also talking about the number of classes you took. Um, what is your current FTP, like functional threshold power, calories that you burned, wattage that you produce? There are so many factors that you can measure these days with sensors and wearable devices that, without it, it's like I did nothing. So this is one side of the story. Obviously, when you have the data, then now you can set up your goals. And I think that this is a very interesting thing when gyms set up goals individually to their members. And I'm not talking about club challenges and stuff like that, which this thing may work, and it does work in many cases, but I'm talking about the personal goals. When you can measure the personal goals, when your staff and instructors can communicate with your members and discuss their personal goals and results, this is something that makes your story a success story as a gym, right? It's a different story.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things that is very important for members engagement is you want your instructors to be professionals. When we look at the industry today, there are so many apps, and I'm talking about the, hopefully soon to be the post-pandemic era. We're talking about many apps out there. Many solutions, many online solutions. How do you even start to compete with a $38 billion company, right? You are a small gym, or maybe you have many facilities, but still, you have to do things different. So I think that the quality of your instructors and programs make a lot of difference. Seriously, it's something that you have to invest time and money, and you have to make sure that everybody in your team knows what they're doing. And let's talk a little bit. I'm starting to talk a lot about members engagement. I can speak forever, by the way.
Well, no, listen, you're doing great. I'm not going to let you go too far afield, but you're going, which that's why I brought up the question we talked about last time. People use these terms and they have to, hey, well, what do we really mean? So what you're doing is painting a picture of the components of this, right?
Right.
So please continue.
So, well, you can have the perfect instructors and team, but if you have a very bad digital fitness experience, then everything is basically gone at the moment that the member is trying to connect with it, whether if it's from home or in your facility. If a member struggles to connect with your systems in the studio or in your gym, that's frustrating. If a member cannot connect with your classes, with your instructors from home, they will just go elsewhere.
Right.
So it's very, very important to have a very robust solution. There are so many solutions out there. You definitely know.
Yes.
So many solutions, and therefore it's very important that whatever that you use will also communicate with other solutions that you may have in your environment, your gym environment.
Yes.
So let's talk about a little bit. If we're talking about members engagement, obviously we cannot not talk about gamification and challenges.
That's right.
So, when people talk about gamification, they usually, they think about computer games or, I don't know, whatever games. This is not the case. To gamify your workouts or your workout experience, you can use many tools, not just visual tools, but you can also create games based on results. We're talking about challenges, so let's compete on burned calories. Let's compete on God knows what, mileage, or let's do team challenges. Let's do group challenges, and it's very important to reward your members, whether if it's by points, by a trophy, or God knows what, This keeps your members engaged. We see it in many of our studios over the world. Class instructors, we talked about instructors. Let your members review your instructors. This is a powerful tool. You can learn more about your instructors, and I think it's more important that you can actually learn more about what your members needs or what they are looking for. It's an important thing, and it comes, it brings us back again to to the beginning, and that's data.
Yep.
And personalization.
Yep. But it's a challenge. So these things, when we talk about engagement and tools like gamification and data feedback, and then also the idea that you have the platforms that can create, in club experience and outside of club experience in a seamless way, so that it's easy for the member to experience that whether they're there or not. The whole notion of technology and doing these things, I find for a lot of people, they are very overwhelmed, or in many cases, they think, well, if I'm to stream a class, that's all I really need to do, and that's going to cut the mustard. When the level to compete, as you mentioned before, requires more thought than that, more features than that.
Right.
In the marketplace, where do you, because I know you have clients around the world that deploy your technology for these very reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see most of the resistance? Do you think that people are it's overwhelming for them to do this? What do you think are the challenges for people in the club business in adopting these things?
Yeah. So when we're talking about the adoption of technology by operators, we see that the pandemic has expedited the process of the whole adoption process, right? Before the pandemic, when you talk with an operator about technology, they would usually think about members management and AV systems, right? That's a different story. In only 6 months, if only 6 months ago, gym owners would deploy technology mostly because they wanted to introduce technology in their gyms. Today, we see that many clubs have moved to the space of digital fitness because the pandemic forced them to it.
Yep.
Now, what does it mean? Look, and I think I mentioned it before when we were talking about a robust solution. Yeah, we see lots of places, and you can just by visiting some Facebook groups or any other social media groups, you can hear a lot about the frustration of members, the frustration of instructors. And if your instructors are frustrated, then your business, well, in the best case scenario, it will do okay. Right? Now, you mentioned data and connectivity. What we did with Spivi, we created a platform that connects people from home with people in the studio, right? They take the class together in the same environment. We collect the data from sensors in the studio. We collect data from sensors at home. We combine everything in real time. and we display the results in a way that nobody else does, by the way, in this industry. This is something that I'm so proud that we created like over 10 years ago. We have a dynamic scenery. So that dynamic scenery, which takes you to the world of avatars, leaderboards, like live leaderboards, with everything is robust. Everything works in a very fast pace. It keeps you engaged with the workout. It helps you to complete your workout. Like, the experience is like anything else. So if we talk about the pandemic and how people, you asked me about how gyms do in different countries. I can tell you that the pandemic has expedited the adoption in places where there were closures. So where we had closures, we saw, it worked like this. The first phase was like, okay, oh my God, what are we doing? They closed our business. What are we doing now? It was very difficult for many places to understand that the pandemic is here to stay. Okay, it is here to stay, and it took them a while to think out of the box. Recently we analyzed 3 studios that use our technology. They started to work with our technology back. Some of them started in April. Some of them started in July. After it took them a while to start with it. And what we could see, and I think this is like a very insightful points. The solution which we provided allowed the studios not just to survive the pandemic, but to actually thrive during the forced lockdowns. Another fascinating insight is that many members who could get back to the studio once we opened, they kept connecting with it from home.
Yep.
Which is, wow, it's this means that we are living in a different era. It's something else. And people sometimes they want to go to the studio, sometimes they want to take the class from home. Give them the environment to do that.
Absolutely. And that's a great example. That's why I was fascinated with some of the stories when we spoke before about this, because, especially in studios, right? You're almost going to have to do this. Like you're going to want to absolutely do this kind of a thing for the reasons you just cited. And, making that very easy for the customer, the member, and making it easy for the club to execute that will be essential, because it's not going to go away. This is from a competitive differentiation perspective. How can studios compete without this? That's my question.
And I think you're absolutely right. Again, it's a different time. You have, before COVID, you had to compete with your local other facilities, in the neighborhood, or in a 5 to 10 miles radius. Now we're talking about a different time. You have tons of other options for people at home. And you know what? During the past few months, many people have bought equipment home, right? So instead of fighting it, use it. Yeah. Use it. Now you have the options the opportunity to get members from outside of your local reach.
That's right. When you see technologies that everyone's talking about, like the Peloton factor, or these other pure technology plays, if you're as a studio, if you're not doing this, what you're doing is letting the door open for those competitors to take your member, right?
Oh my God, you're right. You're so right. And you see that some studios have adopted the using tools like Zoom, which is a very nice tool for a conversation or a meeting, but look, it's not the best experience for your members, right? They do stuff on Facebook Live, on YouTube, Vimeo, God knows what. This is not it. This is just an enabler. You're trying to connect somehow with your members, but this will definitely not keep them engaged. This is not what you want to have. Try it yourself.
Right.
I mean, compete. Try this and then go to take, I don't know, take a Peloton class or take a God knows what. Why would a member stay with you if this is the solution that you provide? I think that studios and gyms need to start to think differently.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't see how you can't do it. I mean, and you think about it. I mean, today, if you're not providing that additional level of service and connectivity, I don't care what industry you're in, especially if you're more of an independent operator, you're just giving your customers away to digital pure play competitors, and you just don't want to do that. I don't see any way around it. Shay, given that you've done this and you've done this for a while, I know your technology continues to evolve,
Yeah.
but I've looked into your products and your different solutions. What else do you see coming forth when we talk about engagement and personalization, and how to compete with these new models that provide this engagement at home or in facility with the community that it supports, all the things you've mentioned? What do you see as the next things that are coming? What do you think's coming next?
Look, I think that the omni-channel model is definitely the next thing to come. If you already adopted that model, you're in a good place. If not, you'll probably not survive in the next couple of years. Having a website with some on-demand thing, that's not the point. The point is to be able to connect your members with your experience, and I'm talking about data, talking about performance history, talking about goals. Everything should be combined in one place where a member can get that kind of experience wherever they are, right? Now, it's essential to think forward and plan your technology roadmap. It's not just about getting this app, which cost me $30 a month, and now I can broadcast my classes. It's much more than that. And look, I worked for many years in the information technology industry before Spivi. And no, it was essential to choose a robust solution. Whatever that you did, you have to choose a robust solution which is open to communicate with other products which you may have. Not just for security, single sign-on and that. We're also talking about data collaboration between the systems. So again, it's one single experience for the member, from booking to automatic log on when you're in the gym, getting your results, getting your feedback, and then let's not forget, with the new regulations, data regulations, that user or member would want to take their data elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So you should be able to provide them with it. With that kind of ability. It's the law, by the way. it's not a nice to have thing anymore. Right. So so I definitely look, when I look into the future, I look for more gamification, omnichannel model, and You want to work with vendors that can provide you with such technology. You want to see partners that can communicate with other partners. There are many times you see the perfect topic solution, but it's a closed garden and it cannot communicate with anything else. So the first thing that you should ask as a studio owner or gym owner and you technology provider, ask them, do you have an open API? Okay, ask this. And this will let you know if they are willing to communicate with others, and then there's a list, by the way. I can share a list with you of so many things that you need to check before committing to technology.
Yeah, I agree with that because I've seen it, many times, people making stopgap decisions without really sitting back and looking at everything and going, okay, here's where we are, here's where we want to be, how are we going to get there? And if you don't really approach it that way, you're really not doing yourself any favors at all. Shay, we're going through another surge of, unfortunately, of the virus and the pandemic around the world, in Europe, in the United States, and other places. In Thailand, our clubs in Thailand shut back down, several weeks ago, and so we, this is another, challenge. What advice do you have? Because you advise and work with a lot of brands around the world. Right now, what are you telling your clients? Obviously, they need to be considering this omni-channel delivery. But what words of wisdom can you impart for our audience around the current situation that we're dealing with?
Well, first, if you haven't moved yet, move. Don't wait. You are not allowed to wait. Many businesses, we know that for a fact, many businesses have closed already. And unfortunately, many other businesses will close in the next few months. On the bright side, I think that the survivors would do great. Because in a world where social distancing doesn't exist anymore, people will want to go out and work out with other people physically, So stay positive. Yeah, we will come back to a place where people can meet, but still, it's not going to be the same world as we knew it in 2019. Another thing that I think you should think about is, now that you can connect people from home, now that you can provide such services, why not thinking about leasing the equipment to these members, right? Partner with your vendors to offer these devices and equipment and wearables. It's all there. Just connect your vendors with the members through you, by the way. This is a great way to make more money, right? But I think it's more important that if you bundle things together, if you package things together, worst case scenario, you keep your member with you for at least a year or two. So yeah, think out of the box. You cannot stay where you were a year ago. It will not work.
Yes, I think that's so true. Changing your mindset and how you think is really, really, really important. Shay, I want to thank you for spending time. I know our listeners really appreciate it. In the show notes, everybody, we're going to have links to Shay and his how to connect with him on LinkedIn. Of course, more details on their very unique technology. And I think his wisdom regarding the fact that you cannot wait, we can't wait. We have to be providing these services in a digitally connected way that makes sense, because it's going to be very difficult for most people to survive without it. So, Shay, I want to thank you so much. And again, welcome on board. We appreciate your support of the Fitness Industry Technology Council. And we know that we'll be sharing some more information on your solutions in the weeks ahead. So again, thank you for being here, Shay.
Thank you very much, Bryan. It was a pleasure. Call me anytime.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.